Good evening. We will call the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Brian or Steve, do you mind calling the roll?
Brian, can you handle that? Because I'm working off my phone and it's not super convenient.
Certainly. Miss Langalis,
Here.
Mr. Hubers,
Here.
Miss Lankowski,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Rowena,
Here.
Miss Wells,
Here.
Miss Tabashnik,
Here.
and Mr. Bryce.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. First, we'll begin by welcoming Commissioner Hubers, John Hubers, to our commission. Happy to have you here this evening and look forward to collaborating with you on the commission.
Thank you, Bruce.
So our first item on the agenda is a special appropriation 2026-22 special appropriation, City of Norwalk special appropriation request to authorize Mayor Barbara Smith to execute a sole purchase order on behalf of the Norwalk Police Department for the purchase of one armored rescue vehicle for a total not to exceed $361,000, account number noted in the agenda, executive session report and recommended action. Before we move on, I do want to call out that both Diana and Anna are seated for this meeting. Who here is presenting for this special appropriation? Oh,
You false, you're muted.
Sorry, I should know better. Yes, I am. In regard to, are we going to discuss this in executive session, or how do you want to proceed, Brian?
so let's, as much as you're able to share outside of executive session, do you
Surely.
mind sharing so? And if we have any questions or further discussion, we can take a vote and move to executive session if we need. Does that
Okay.
sound good?
Surely. The police department has funding for sole source purchase of an armored rescue vehicle used primarily by law enforcement for high-risk operations, including hostage rescue, active shooter response, and barricaded subject situations. The vehicle protects personnel from high-caliber rounds and explosives and assists in rescue and medical operations. The vehicle will be used as protection and rescue as it serves as a mobile shield for transporting personnel to and from dangerous situations, as well as evacuating civilians, trapped motorists, and injured officers. In addition to rescuing civilians and officers from active shooter incidents, the vehicle will be utilized as a disaster response vehicle utilized during emergencies such as rescuing individuals from flooded or debris-filled areas. So currently, we do have funding in place. It is a vehicle that the city of Norwalk doesn't have such an asset in its inventory, and there are several other larger municipalities in the state of Connecticut that do have such a vehicle, and it will protect officers and civilians from such an incident, which are occurring throughout America on an everyday basis, as we have seen of active shooter incidents, not only at faith-based organizations, but at organizations and other institutions, schools. And currently, the city of Norwalk doesn't have such an asset. To protect civilians, to separate civilians from a dangerous situation without being exposed to fatal rounds or other armament which can be used to maim or kill.
Thank you for your presentation. If there are questions, I would ask for a motion for executive session. And if not, I would ask for a motion on the special appropriation. Anna?
Can I ask why questions on this particular special appropriation need to go to executive session without you telling me anything about the specific thing? Like, we've done a lot of special appropriations. I don't remember us ever having to go into executive session before. So for the people listening, at least, who aren't going to be in the meeting with us, why might something have to go into executive session in this context?
In this context, it was upon consultation with Corporation Counsel and Procurement, due to the specific makeup of such a vehicle, is in best interest not to expose certain capabilities and vulnerabilities of such thing. Such procurements have gone before previous boards in such fashion. It's not we're trying to, and there are certain procurement guidelines which do allow this in the city of Norwalk.
Thank you. I motion that we go to executive session to discuss this item.
Thank Thank you, Anna. Is there a second? Thank you, Tammy. We'll do this with a show of hands. All those in favor of moving to executive session? All right, that is unanimous. Or Richard, did you indicate? Okay, sorry, I missed it. Okay, that is unanimous. We will move to executive session. See you all there.
We have to go
How
to.
do we get there?
We have to go
There's
to
a link that Brian sent
right.
yesterday, right?
Richard,
Brian?
I'll resend it to you. So keep an eye on your inbox. I'll send you the link, and
Okay.
I'll be waiting in here.
Send me one too, okay?
All right, I'll send it to the whole group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Galen, check your email. It should be in there now.
Recording in progress.
Brian in the wrong meeting.
What was that, Tammy?
I can hear you. You can hear me, but am I in the wrong meeting?
Yeah, go to check your email. There should be a new link. Use that one.
Okay. Oh, got it. I was in the wrong email. Thank you.
No problem.
On this issue. I mean, Chief.
Ooh. Yeah. So that automated Zoom one that you get from me. Yeah, just reuse that one. I have not. Thank you. I'm like multitasking between the other meetings. Uh, yeah, I think Steve was having his laptop crash, so he's running that meeting on his phone, and then I have that one open on my work computer. I got this meeting open on my personal computer. There's that.
Brian, just so you know, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Good to go.
Thank you. All right, we have a return from executive session. During executive session, no vote was taken. The purpose of our executive session was to discuss an attorney-client privilege matter related to the special appropriation. With that, is there a motion to take action on this special appropriation?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Luke.
I'll second.
Is there a second? Thank you, Tammy. Let's do this with a roll call. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
Certainly. Miss Tabashnik? Mr. Hubers?
Yes.
Miss Langalis?
Yes.
Miss Lankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Miss Wells?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief Walsh, for your presentation this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.
Our next item on the agenda is 09-11, special permit number 22-11, CAM, Northwater LLC, 1 North Water Street and 20 Washington Street, District 2, Block 24, Lot 10. Modifications to conditions of approval of mixed-use development, Ironworks report, and recommended action. Who is representing this application this evening?
Good evening. I'm Paul McKnight with Spinnaker Real Estate Partners.
Good evening, Mr. McKnight. Please go ahead and begin your presentation.
All right. If we're seeking approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission in connection with the Walkbridge project. As you may or may not know, the Connecticut Department of Transportation has imposed an access agreement and exercised eminent domain authority over a portion of our North Water Street garage, which unfortunately includes the primary garage entry and loading area. The permanent closure of the North Water driveway is scheduled for April 6th, 2006, and will remain closed during the duration of the project, which is anticipated to last 2.5 to 3 years. The Walkbridge project is a state initiative and is not being undertaken at our request or for the benefit of the Ironworks property. However, the required closure eliminates our primary access for garage entry, trash removal, resident move-ins and move-outs, as well as retail and restaurant deliveries. As a result, all vehicle operations must be redirected to our Washington Street entry, which accesses the rear of our garage around a fountain, a public access fountain and courtyard area. We previously obtained an approval in 2018 to modify circulation and temporarily relocate certain parking spaces in anticipation of this closure. It's been long delays with the Walkbridge project, and it's never been fully known until now what the full impact of the project will be. And with construction now underway, the relocated spaces will no longer be available, and traffic in the fountain driveway will increase significantly. To ensure safe operations, we engaged a traffic engineer to evaluate circulation and pedestrian conditions resulting from the driveway closure. The traffic analysis recommends temporarily removing the existing 2-hour parking spaces adjacent to the Washington Street driveway to maintain adequate vehicle flow and protect pedestrian movement within the configured driveway area. Enhanced signage protection, pedestrian pathways, bollards, and pavement striping are going to be incorporated into this, into the new egress plan into the garage for safety of vehicles and pedestrians. Because the closure eliminates our primary garage access and the loading area, requiring all vehicle activity to be redirected through this constrained area, we must modify the Washington Street driveway to allow safe loading. This will require us to utilize the 6 public parking spaces adjacent to the Washington Street driveway from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday for short-term loading, deliveries, tenant move-ins, and tenant move-outs, and essential operational use. Ideally, these spaces would remain reserved for uses 24/7. However, we recognize the competing need for public parking during peak dining hours and are willing to limit our use of the spaces so that after 7 p.m., these spaces can revert to 2-hour parking. These are temporary measures that are necessary to allow the garage and the building to continue functioning and to accommodate required loading activity and resident moves and to ensure safe pedestrian conditions during construction. The resulting operational disruption imposes a substantial burden on the property and the requested adjustment is a narrowly tailored measure to mitigate those impacts. We look forward to the completion of the walk bridge project so that normal access and operations may be restored. We respectfully request the city's support of these temporary measures as we prepare for the April 6th closure and continue operating an active mixed-use property serving the South Norwalk community during construction.
Mr. McKnight, just a clarification. Are the 6 parking spaces that you're talking about on Washington Street or in your courtyard?
They're in our courtyard.
Do you mind pulling up a site plan to illustrate this?
Would you like me to?
If you don't mind, yes.
Yeah, I have a site plan. Yeah.
Thank you. Lou, was that your question? I saw you put your hand down.
My question was how are they going to control that? I assumed it was on Washington.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't need to ask my question.
Yeah.
The site plan that's in our documents is really hard to read. So I don't know if anybody has a different version.
You permit me to share the screen here. I can show you a pretty interactive map that'll really highlight all the impacts and show you the areas in case it's not clear. That's not clear. Let me share my screen here. That didn't take, did it?
Not yet. There we go. It's starting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You can see the screen?
It is still loading for me, at least. Technology has been challenging a few of us this evening, so hopefully it comes. Do you mind stopping your share and sharing again?
I see double click to enter full screen mode on my screen.
Same, it's just a black screen. Mr. McKnight, maybe if you stop sharing and reshare, it will come back up for us.
I'm a Teams guy, not a Zoom guy. Sorry.
You know, Mr. Chairman, if I may say,
sure.
If this parking space thing is limited to their courtyard, I'm not really that interested in seeing the site plan. I'm intimately familiar with the courtyard. I've eaten in there a million times. I just thought he was talking about parking spaces on Washington Street.
I think that was included, Mr. McKnight. Are there parking spaces removed as a part of this in order to increase sight lines for the driveway on Washington Street? Am I recalling that correctly?
All right, I think we had a little bit of a block there. We'll try this one more time.
Okay. There we go. We see it now.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me and see the screen, yeah?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right, so what we're looking at is the front. This is North Water Street, 1 North Water Street. I think this is probably familiar most. This is the front entrance where people access the garage. Let me scroll here. So here's a site map that this is the front of the entrance that we just looked at. And today, the majority of all vehicles of the residents that live in the 108 apartments and the visitors that visit the retail and shops, they pull in through this entrance here and this is the garage entrance here. So the easement is going to take over this area here. This construction work area is highlighted. Thus, it blocks off any entrance into our garage. That shows as a shared access, emergency egress. So over here on Washington Street, all traffic therefore diverts from Washington Street, and the 6 spaces are right here inside as you pull in off of Washington Street. This is the fountain and the circle. Originally, there were 4 spaces for public parking allocated within the circle. and 6 here. So, I mean, this area was really never designed to accommodate a lot of traffic in the courtyard. And when this project was proposed to us, when this project was known to us, we added a second means of ingress or egress into the garage from this point here, which originally was only designed as an exit. We put it so we've already added an entry and an exit to get vehicles in and out of the garage once this area is closed. So here's a rendering of the area and how the traffic pattern is proposed. And here are the parking spaces that we're discussing today. And so, you know, typically this area here is where move-in trucks will pull up here and unload, and deliveries to the restaurants and food deliveries will take place in this area. And now that this is going to be closed, we're hoping to be able to allocate these parking spaces for that purpose for loading. There's another picture of what this looks like. Here's the entrance. So here's the entrance showing the state's fencing blocking off the garage entry, thus moving all traffic to the Washington Street entrance. Here's the easement area as it is today, and 4 of the parking spaces that we have that are public are located here. And again, this is the entrance to the garage as it exists today, and then this is the proposed work site area, and to the right here is the proposed west approach train. This is the work they're doing to repair the west approach, and that this is going to be a staging area. And this is basically, the lockdown of this area that forces all the traffic to come in on Washington Street. Were these slides helpful for context? Can I show, is there anything else you'd like to see?
Yeah. One follow-up, because I think other commissioners may have had the same misconception. You said that in the letter, which was included in our briefing, the mention was the closure of spaces adjacent to the Washington Street driveway.
Yeah.
Those spaces are, I understand now from your presentation, those spaces are not on Washington Street. They are kind of alongside the driveway, correct? There are no actual impacts to Washington Street itself.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Originally, our traffic engineer had proposed to take four spaces on Washington Street to create a turn lane on Washington Street so that the increase in traffic wouldn't back up onto Washington Street. But ultimately, when our traffic engineer worked with Ben Young, that Ben determined that was not desired, and we abandoned any pursuit of requesting that those spaces be removed on Washington Street. So our request is for the spaces shown here in the rendering, for us to have full utilization of these as loading areas from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Thank you. That clarifies my question as well. Richard and Lou, is your question answered from the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Are there any other questions for Mr. McKnight? Go ahead, Tammy.
Thank you. There's no way for your tenants to get out the back side of that building? Because in my mind, I think there's a parking lot on the other side of the apartment part of your structure going north.
No, so there's 2 ways to access the garage today. One is here.
Yep.
One is here, and you can see when you drive through, enter, this is where my cursor is. This is the main entrance to the garage today. Mm-hmm. So people drive in on the right and they drive out on this side.
Yeah. There's nothing sort of beyond that wall that's down by the sidewalk up to the right to get over to the parking lot on the other side.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay.
No, that's it's actually probably shown well in this map here. If that specific area is, yeah, that's part of the construction easement area. When you drive up, all this area is just sort of like a walking area along the train tracks. There's no accessibility behind the garage structure. The only accessibility in is outlined here in purple, from the side entrance of the garage through the fountain and to Washington Street.
Okay. And once the DOT is finished with the project, they will release their eminent domain over your property.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry you have to suffer through that.
Yeah, it's quite a shakeup here for sure to businesses and to residents, and everybody's in a little bit of a panic about how it will work. Navigating all the garage holds 225 parking spaces, which is normally full. So 225 cars daily coming in and out through the fountain area, which is why we're adding signage and striping and trying to be as thoughtful as we can to accommodate this challenge for the next couple of years.
I really appreciate that the care that's being taken to kind of minimize the impact outside the property. I kind of feel like I have to ask, do you feel like these changes are sufficient given that we're talking about kind of moving the access and egress to a pretty substantial garage? So like, is this change sufficient to mitigate the problems you see this causing?
I think, from a traffic perspective, the traffic engineer we shared traffic engineering reports. When you enter our garage, we have a gate system. So we have good data about how many cars come in on an hourly basis. And he looked at a full year of the in and out traffic within the garage. And so we believe that we can accommodate the traffic through this, Washington Street entrance. The change is going to be is habitual change that the residents that have lived here, that have been through this area, it's going to be a change. That's going to be the big change, is just getting people to embrace that this is now the main traffic pattern, and that we literally have no choice. There is no other way in and out. So we have to make this work. And I think that we're positioning ourselves to, put our best plan and foot forward on day one, and to be able to adjust and pivot as the project goes along to see, what could change, if anything. One of the other things that we're doing around that circle is we're installing Corten steel bollards to create a pedestrian lane around the circle. And there will be 10 Corten steel bollards so that the vehicles will stay, inside the fountain area and the bollards. And then where this sidewalk is here, that the bollards will create a pedestrian walking area around the outside of the circle on both sides, and that there'll be signage there that say pedestrian only, slow, and no, you can't stop in the circle anymore. A lot of people park, and food deliveries happen now because there's not a lot of traffic, but none of that will be able to continue because we'll need to, keep the traffic lanes moving. So yeah. I think it'll be change for the sake of change, but I think from a traffic engineering study perspective, that the pattern seems to be able to withstand the increase in traffic.
You actually answered my next question, which I really appreciate. My observation is that since that area is currently low traffic, it is kind of de facto treated as a pedestrian right of way at all times, and I'm really glad to see you're taking proactive measures to explicitly change that before the boost in traffic.
Yeah, thank you. The other note I think is important to highlight on the traffic plan, it was advised that was advised by the traffic engineer and by DOT that we implement a no left turn, so that when cars are exiting this way, they can't make a left turn onto Washington, because that will potentially cause traffic problems during high peak times. So, we've ordered that signage and we're prepared to install it. Our only concern is how will that be enforced? It was stipulated that the stop sign and the no left turn sign be put onto our property, but it seems like, if people obey that, do not turn left, I don't know what enforcement will be like, or if there's any support from local PD on enforcement, or any recommendations from the commission on that.
I think the installation of a sign is a good thing in this space, as it indicates to drivers that they should be taking a right out of there in order to not block traffic and such. I'd say typically on projects, the enforcement piece is not something that we weigh in too much on as it relates to left turn signage. So we have talked about other mitigations for certain driveways, like installing the driveway in a manner where left turns are discouraged. But I don't think this driveway can accommodate that. I don't know if other commissioners have feelings on installing the sign, but I see it as something that should be on the site.
I agree. Good to have. Whether people obey it or not, it's another story.
Yep. Mr. McKnight, I think at the beginning you gave us a time frame of when you're anticipating the state will return the land that they're taking through the eminent domain to you. What was that timeline again?
I mean, the advertised project, the entire Walk Bridge project completion date is 2030.
Okay.
The west approach portion, which is the portion that's specific to the eminent domain easement, they've stated to us that portion will take approximately 2.5 to 3 years.
Okay.
And that the permanent closure that they're planning is effective April 6th, where they're going to fence off that area and take it over, and thus, move all the traffic to this pattern that we've discussed.
Okay. And you see, I think I caught this earlier in your presentation, that you see that you'll be able to restore to the present conditions of using the North Water Street access once the land is returned to you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we can't wait.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're gonna be hoping that they can wrap up as soon as possible. But I mean, this project's this is a big undertaking, as you probably already know. And so we're hopeful that the delays that we've experienced to date with this project, or they have experienced with the project, is the sort of the getting started bit, and that now that they're started, that things should go to schedule. So 2 to 3 years is the best quote we have from the Walkbridge team.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. McKnight? All right, Mr. McKnight, do you have anything else on your presentation for us this evening?
Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this application?
Move to approve.
I think I saw Tammy seconded that. Brian or Steve, do you have a memo? I guess Brian, since Steve's on his phone.
No, we didn't prepare a resolution for this.
Okay. So with this, we are looking to approve a modification to the prior special permit, right? And as far as a condition I'd like to propose would be to require that the applicant returns the site to its current state once the land is returned to them. So I'm not sure the right way to record that other than to have it in the minutes if Richard and Tammy are amenable to that modification to their motion.
I have no problem with that.
Fine with me too. Thank you.
Okay. And it sounded like the applicant was also okay with it. Is there any other discussion for this motion? All right. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure. Ms. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Langalis?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Lankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hubers?
Oh, you're muted. But
Got the thumbs up.
Great.
Ms. Tabashnik?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Great. Thank you for your presentation today, Mr. McKnight.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Our next application is 2026-20, 824 referral, City of Norwalk, 467 West Avenue, acceptance of pedestrian access easement areas, report and recommended action. Brian, are you presenting this one?
Yeah, and Vince Hines from Rennes and Mead is available if you have any technical questions, but for the most part, you'll remember back when we approved, for those of you who are on the commission, the Pinnacle project, which is nearing completion. Part of the application and the conditions of approval was that the widening of the sidewalks as part of the project be included. And with that, public easements needed to be provided in favor of the city so the public has access to those portions of the sidewalk. And in order for the city to accept those easements, it's technically an acceptance of land, which requires an 824 referral. So essentially, we are asking for an 824 referral that we accept an easement, which was a condition of our approval anyway. So it's for them to meet the conditions of their special permit approval.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Brian or Mr. Hines? All right. Is there a motion for this? Thank you, Marty. Thank you. Thank you, Lou. I think we can do this one with a show of hands. So all of those in favor of approving. All right. Anna, do you want to indicate with a aye or an abstention or no? Anna, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you. That's a thumbs up. Okay. So that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is 2026-12 Coastal Site Plan Review, John Hiltz, 25 Commerce Street, repair an existing shoreline flood and erosion control structure, report and recommended action. Who here this evening is representing 25 Commerce Street?
Hi, good evening. This is John Hiltz.
Good evening. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Yes, hi. It's a pretty simple matter. We're just simply replacing and kind and in place approximately 60 feet of deteriorated stone seawall. It forms the landward terminus along the Norwalk River. And there's not much to it. It's basically kind of a disassembling of the existing wall and reassembling using most of the stone that is there. There'll be some improvements in terms of drainage material behind the wall and also the inclusion of geotextile filter fabric to prevent soil fines from migrating through the wall cracks and into the river. Basically, it's just a repair and kind in place. It's received DEP and Army approval. And the Harbor Management Commission's seen it twice, and they have no issues with it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Hiltz? All right. Mr. Hiltz, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
None whatsoever.
Great. Is there a motion for this application? Thank you, Tammy. Is that a motion to approve?
Yes, motion to approve.
Thank you. I saw Richard seconded. Amelia, or Brian, do you mind bringing up the resolution? Thank you, Amelia.
So staff has no concerns with this proposal. Believe it complies with the Coastal Area Management Act and pretty standard approval or draft resolution to approve for seawall repair. So just a couple conditions: follow the plans, install sediment and erosion controls, and let us know if there'll be any changes.
Is there any discussion or modifications to this resolution? Right. Hearing none. Amelia, do you mind calling the roll?
Not at all. Ms. Tabachnik?
Yes.
Ms. Lingalis?
Yes.
Ms. Wells? Yes. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Lankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hubers?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes. All right. That is also unanimous. Thank you for your presentation this evening, Mr. Hiltz.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Great. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Our next application is 2026-09 Coastal Site Plan Review, Cusides Engineering LLC, 5 Shorehaven Road. Construct additions to a single-family residence, reconfigure the driveway, and relocate a storm drain pipe within 50 feet of tidal wetlands. Report and recommended action. Who here this evening is representing 5 Shorehaven Road?
Good evening. My name is Jim Cusides with Cusides Engineering. Although my title says Avon Bauer, I ignore that. So we are the site engineers for the property. There's also with us tonight another Avon Bauer call out. His name is Peter Cadu. He's the project architect, in case you have questions for him as well. I believe I can share my screen here so we can go over what the site plan looks like. Can you please let me know if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see the site plan.
Perfect. So
Can you make your screen just a little bit larger?
Or zoom into the site plan.
Yes, I was gonna just go over the location a little bit and then we can zoom in.
Okay.
So Canfield, so we are east of Canfield Avenue that comes down north-south, and the driveway accesses Shorehaven Road down here. There's a little snippet of the driveway next to our main site plan. So the proposal here tonight in front of you is 2 additions, one on the south, one on the north, the southeast and northwest, but we'll keep it simple. North and south additions to the residence. We are in a FEMA flood zone and in the CAM area. That's why we're in front of you tonight. So based on the architectural plans that you had a chance to review, we fully comply to the FEMA requirements. The first floor is 2 feet above the base flood elevation, which is a step up from the existing residence. And there are flood vents on the lower level to allow for flood waters to flow through the residence during the not high tide, but the flood events. In addition to the 2 additions here, we are proposing to slightly modify the existing driveway. Currently it comes in. There is an island in the middle of it, which interferes with how you enter and exit the driveway. So it's reconfigured in a way to allow them direct access to the garage, a backout area, and then out onto Shorehaven Road. The area is approximately the same. The driveway area is approximately the same as the driveway that is there today. In order to, and that's why I had an overall view of this before, in order to do the addition to the south, we will have to relocate a municipal storm drain pipe that flows from Canfield Avenue all along down into the tidal waters here. It discharges to the tidal waters. The issue with this pipe is, if this was a current condition setting from the city of Norwalk crossing somebody's property, it would most likely be in the setbacks area of this property, so that it will not interfere with any proposed additions as we're proposing today. So what we have proposed is for the owners to take on the responsibility and expense to relocate the pipe by installing a manhole in this general area, over to this manhole and a third manhole to intercept the old pipe, and then from there, the water will end up in Loyan Sound as it has been for many years. We're not touching the head wall. We're not, which means that we do not need a DEP permit for this work. So with that said, we will also have to move, and you can see here these dark 2 dashed lines with a hatch in between. We would have to move the city easement that comes along with the new pipe relocation. When we originally submitted the plan, we did not have the coastal jurisdiction line on here. So this manhole here on the bottom was located out somewhere in this vicinity. So when we received comments back to add that line on there, we realized that we were beyond that jurisdiction line, which is in this area right here. So we moved the manhole outside of it. During the installation of this pipe, this addition will not, obviously we have to install this pipe before we can start any work on the addition. So there is plenty of room here to stockpile and not affect any of the tidal wetlands, that is this dash line or the coastal jurisdiction line in this area. I just mentioned this because I know staff recommends moving this pipe even further, but we've already taken measures to move the pipe away from these regulatory lines, and at the same time, the owner is undertaking the cost and responsibility to relocate these pipes in order to improve his property. I just want to quickly touch upon the driveway again. As I mentioned earlier, we are not increasing the size of the impervious surface regarding to the driveway. So we don't feel that we need to provide additional drainage for it, nor do we need to make it permeable, as the surface already exists and it is asphalt currently. We did provide a drainage system in the northeast area of the property where we will be collecting the equivalent area of the two additions, and we will be providing water quality volume for that since we are directly flowing into Long Island Sound. We have a robust sediment and erosion control plan with stockpile areas, construction pad, and a silt fence around the entire disturbed area to protect the tidal wetlands. And with that, if you would like, I can leave the plan up, or I can stop sharing, and I would answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Casides? Go ahead, Tammy.
Yes, hi, Mr. Casides. Thank you. My first question, I think, is fairly straightforward and easy. The circular garden that's in the middle of the driveway, I understand it's somewhat of an obstacle, but if you take it out, and pave over it, what was there, what was the garden, then you are increasing the impervious surface. I read somewhere in the documents that you were considering, or it was asked for you to consider using the pervious pavement or pavers, or some such material. Can you tell me what you're doing there?
So I'm just going to highlight the areas in red that are of these are areas of the existing driveway that we are basically removing. Which are equivalent to the area of the island that we are actually paving over. So we're not just paving over the island and leaving the rest of the driveway alone.
So the survey map that you have then before you put the red lines doesn't really represent the way the driveway currently is?
Yes, it does. I followed, if you look underneath the red line in here, this is the edge of the old driveway.
Oh, I see. Okay, forgive me. I couldn't really see that, and I thought it was the darker line.
The darker line is the proposed driveway area.
That's the new line. Okay, my mistake. I'm sorry. And then my other question about the piping and where the water is draining that you need to move, where does that originate?
It originates from catch basins in Canfield Road, Canfield Avenue.
So if I'm not mistaken, then the dotted line there, the light gray, is the parking lot for Sprite Island. So it goes under their parking lot and then into your client's property. So you're going to jog it, but all that waste water or runoff, wherever it's coming from, primarily Canfield Avenue, is then being drained into the creek or the estuary.
That is correct, just as it does today.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't it run the other way? I mean, why would you run it? Well, I guess that's the lowest point, right?
The point here is that we cannot have a new point of discharge according to the new DEP regulations. So we have to reroute the pipe in a way where we leave the existing discharge point.
Okay.
And rerouting it the other way is a longer run.
And it's okay to have basically what looks like to be a 90-degree turn in your pipe, like it's sort of like a V.
We've been working with, sorry, please finish.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, it's not at risk of backing up, getting backed up.
We've been working with staff to provide calculations to show how we're not going to impede flow from existing to proposed conditions.
And it's a solid pipe, so there's no risk of it draining out into the neighbor's yard.
Correct. It's a solid pipe, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions for Mr. Casides?
So I have a question, Chapin.
Please.
So I apologize if it's on the chart. I can't see it. It's very small, but how much of the total allowable impervious surface on the site is being used with the new additions?
That is a very good question. I will have to look through.
I think it's on the site plan in the zoning data chart on the bottom right. If you want.
Yeah, I just can't read that.
Jim,
Thank you.
I might be able to help with that.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Peter Cadu Architects. Just taking from the chart, the existing coverage on the property total impervious is 21%. You're allowed 35% on this property, and the proposed is 26%.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would the applicant consider replanting the plantings that are being removed from the driveway garden somewhere else on the property?
So I don't know if this is helpful, but the island is currently just grass right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I must have an old picture where it has some.
yeah, we're hopeful that the plant more than what's on the property now along its perimeter. So I think it will end up having more landscaping when we're complete than what we currently have.
Okay, and it was difficult to tell from the drawings. Is the larger portion of the addition the one that's approximately 1,200 or so square feet? Is that a first and a second floor? Or
Yeah, so all the additions that you're seeing are just one story.
okay, with new roof over both.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Casides or Mr. Cadu? All right, Mr. Casides or Mr. Cadu, do you have anything else you'd like to add to your presentation this evening?
Just thank you for your review, and we appreciate staff for getting us to this point in our application. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this application?
I'll move to
Diana. Diana, was that a motion to approve? Okay, and Harvey, was that a second? Excellent. Amelia, do you mind pulling up the resolution?
Not at all.
Thank you. Is there any discussions or modifications on the motion to approve? All right. Amelia, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure. Mr. Vashnik?
Anna, we can't hear you if you spoke. That looked like a yes. Yeah, now we have
Yes.
your audio.
Yeah, I can see you, but
Okay.
can't hear you.
I understand. Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Wells? Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Lingalis?
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Jones?
yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Mr. Hubers?
Yes.
Ms. Linkowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes. That carries with one abstention. Mr. Kulis, thank you for your presentation tonight. Kusidis, my apologies.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Our next application is 2026-07 Coastal Site Plan Review, Tomas Builders LLC, 30 Charles Street, District 3, Block 7, Lot 14. Coastal Site Plan Review application for the construction of a two-family detached dwelling, report and recommended action. Who is representing this applicant this evening?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Attorney Sachi, do you mind if we hear both this and 32 Charles Street at the same time, and we'll take separate action afterwards?
I was going to ask you to do that very thing, so thank you very much. You're way ahead of me.
Excellent. I'll read the next one just for our discussion, and then I'll turn it over to you. So our next one is, as part of this discussion, is 2026-08 Coastal Site Plan Review, Tomas Builders LLC, 32 Charles Street, District 3, Block 7, Lot 15. Coastal Site Plan Review and application for the construction of a two-family detached dwelling unit. So just as a clarification, this is not about the 34 Charles Street that we may see on site plans, just for 30 and 32. So with that, I'll turn it to you, Attorney Sachi, for your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Bryce, and good evening, members of Planning and Zoning Commission. For the record, my name is Liz Sachi, partner at Carney, Torrent, Sandeck, and Hennessy, 1055 Washington Boulevard in Stamford, and I represent the owner of the property, excuse me, JMT Charles 25 LLC, as well as Mr. Joseph Tomas, who is on tonight's call. Mr. Tomas is a principal of JMT Charles 25 LLC and is the applicant before you. Also present is Vincent Hines, a professional engineer with Redness and Mead. And if you have any questions about architecture, Lou Damazzi of Damazzi Architects is present as well, should you have questions of him. These applications for coastal site plan review were filed January 27th. Notice to neighbors was sent via certificate of mailing on February 6th within your 10-day requirement. The certificate of mailing was returned to staff on February 6th. And just for the record, to date, I have received no phone calls or emails or other inquiries from the neighbors, and there were quite a few, since there are two condominium complexes that are within 100 feet of the property. So the applications before you for each lot are coastal site plan review applications. One each was submitted for 30 and 32. You will also see a coastal site plan application for number 34 in the future, should the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a variance, for which we are appearing before that board tomorrow night. Vince, if you could show the survey, that would be helpful. And while he is doing that, so the properties at 30, 32, and 34 are on the east side of what is formerly Charles Street. You'll see 32 and 30 and 32. 30 is outlined in blue. 32 is outlined in red. I don't know why it goes 32, 30, 34, but that's just the way they are. The numbering came about through whoever assigned numbers to them years and years ago. Each property is just over 7,400 or 7,500 square feet. 30 Charles Street is District 3, Block 7, Lot 14, and 32 Charles Street is District 3, Block 7, Lot 15. The parcels are both in the CD2 zone, which allows two-family residential dwelling units. And that's what the proposal is before you today. We are in front of you with a coastal site plan application because the property is within the coastal zone. We propose to develop each property with a new two-family structure that meets all of the city zoning requirements, whether that be height of the building, number of stories, coverage, setbacks, open space, parking. Access to the development will be through a 15-foot deeded right-of-way from Osborne Avenue. And again, each proposed house, two-family house, will meet the requirements of the CD2 zone. We have so far secured the approvals of the first district and transportation, mobility, and parking with one condition. And the fire department and Department of Public Works have shared comments that we're confident we'll be able to address prior to the issuance of the zoning permit. That's a very basic overview of what is before you tonight. So at this point, if Mr. Hines would walk you through the site plan, I think that'd be helpful. And then if you have any questions of me or Mr. Hines, we would be happy to answer them. The property, as I said, is located within the CAM zone, but there are no coastal resources on the property. The Norwalk River is to the northwest, but the property is separated from the Norwalk River by other developed properties and sidewalks and some roadways and other developed properties to the north. We believe both applications fully comply with the Coastal Area Management Act. And the only policies related to this development are general policies as identified in the Coastal Area Management Act. Mr. Hines, leave it to you.
Yeah, good evening. For the record, my name is Vincent Hines, a licensed engineer with Redness and Mead, having offices in Stamford and Milton. Our office has provided the site engineering and surveying services for this project here. So, as Liz indicated, we have 30 and 32 Charles Street, highlighted in red and blue, currently or formerly developed with a single-family home and pool and some driveway and patio areas that extend over the parcels from 30 to 32 or from 30 to 34. The existing configuration is connected out to Osborne Avenue via the 15-foot right-of-way through 69 Osborne Avenue. And that's what we're looking to continue use of for access to the proposed project here. So I'll go here. So we have driveway and parking connected to the Osborne Avenue right-of-way, garage access to the two-family homes on that rear side of the property with the Charles Street side considered the front, although it is a dead-end street with and 30 and 34. I'm confusing myself already because of these addresses. Technically being rear access lots that are not really accounted for in the current zoning regulations. With that said, we do have portico entries designed for front door appeal on that frontage as required by the zoning regulations, and those open up to permeable paver patio areas and stairs down to the lower grades on the Charles Street side. I don't think I said it, but the drive courts as you enter these sites are also permeable pavers, which count as pervious coverage for us in the zoning and DPW requirements. I'll just give a quick snapshot of the coverages for the site. You have your building coverage, the patios and the driveways, again, both permeable pavers, which are pervious, and then open jointed deck stairs at either end of the patio areas that connect down to that lower grade, and then some miscellaneous concrete walkways and site walls for grading purposes, and then you can see just a piece of Charles Street that extends into the property here at the south end of 32. Related to coverages, we do have we're in that weird I'd say lot size where we're not quite a set percentage. It's a calculated percentage based on lot sizes between 6,251 square feet and 12,499 square feet. So with that, the allowed for 30 impervious coverage is just shy of 3,500 square feet, and we're proposing just over 2,700 square feet. Similarly for 32, the allowed is just over 3,500 square feet, and the proposed is about 2,750 square feet for impervious coverage. And then just going to the site plan with utilities, we're showing all underground utilities to the site, and we've had preliminary discussions with each of the utility companies at this point for how we're going to route the utilities to the site. The stormwater, again, is we're meeting the requirements of the design manual for the city's drainage manual by implementing crushed stone reservoirs underneath these permeable paver driveways that are both capable of providing the necessary water quality, but also meeting the peak flows up to and including the 100-year storm event. So that allows us to limit potential, that kind of takes the place of your traditional Coltech system underground. You have these stone reservoirs that do the same thing. They either store water or allow that to exfiltrate back into the ground. Worth noting while we're talking about the utilities that DPW did have a couple of comments in their memo, and as Liz indicated, we've had discussions with them on those items, and are positive that we can respond and modify the plan accordingly to have their sign off for the zoning and building permits in the event that we get approved here. With that said, I'll end with just a little bit on the camp side, where, like Liz indicated, 30 and 32 are not within a flood zone. The flood zone you can see is in the northwest corner of 34, and so we're not anticipating any need to worry about flood construction that you might see on the coast. The project is consistent with the existing uses of the neighborhood, with condo complexes and multifamily in the area. We don't interfere with the waterfront uses adjacent to the area, given the kind of landlocked nature, and then given the elevations we're of the site and proper implementation of sediment and erosion controls, we don't anticipate any impacts, to the river's erosion patterns in any way. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Before that, I just want to make two comments. Thanks, Vince. One is to thank Brian Baker for the many emails and meetings that we had with him. One would think that sites like this with a two-family house on two lots would be relatively easy to move forward and design, but these lots proved to be very challenging for a variety of different reasons. Topography was one of them, access was another. So we do want to thank Brian for the untold hours that he worked with us to help us devise a plan that worked and was compliant. And I have, if anyone has any questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them, but I just wanted to make sure I put that on the record to thank him.
Great.
Sorry.
One question I have. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you with the dog.
One question I have for you, Mr. Hines, is as it relates to the grading and specifically on the planting plan. I saw that there was tree removal along what seemed to be quite a steep bank. So I'm curious. So I did see as well there's plantings to restore along that bank as well. So I'm curious what measures are in place to stabilize the bank during construction and after construction, as this seems like it's quite exposed.
So we're on a slope that is either at or even steeper than 2-on-1 grade. So the goal is to minimize the amount of work we need, obviously related to working with that slope. So we do have a couple things we're doing. One, we're introducing a couple of walls that are 4 feet or less in height and more than 5 feet away from the property line to meet the regulations. So that helps us to be able to create a little bit of a more flat yard space, a little bit more usable yard space to the front side, quasi rear side of the duplexes. The plant over time, plantings in general, I think will help slope stabilization as they mature. And if, as we're in construction, we're noticing any problems related to that slope, it becomes an erosion control issue that we would recommend action on if there's any issue. And a potential action item might be that there's an erosion control blanket that we could place on that slope as may be needed.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Attorney Suchi or Mr. Hines? Go ahead, Tammy.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. I'm a little not confused, but concerned that the address of these properties is Charles Street, but the driveway is on Osborne. And if you live there and you say, I live on Charles Street, your guest or whomever might come to Charles Street, but yet they can't come in that way. At least I don't think they can based on your drawings. And then from a safety point of view, if there's a fire there and the fire truck needed to come down the driveway and they go to the wrong place, that's time lost. Could you address that? Like, did you apply for an address change?
I can address that initially. That is not something that the Department of Public Works has raised with us that we need to consider. However, if that's a concern by this commission, we can certainly work with Public Works to see if there's a way to come up with addresses for these lots. I'm not sure if it's possible, given the fact that there are 2 lots on either side of the access way. Perhaps there is a way. And if that's something you'd like us to evaluate with DPW, we're certainly happy to do it. Your question's a fair one, and your points are well taken. But if that's something you think is appropriate and necessary, of course, we'd be happy to work with DPW to come up with addresses that are more appropriate for fire safety, for emergency vehicles, and the like.
Okay, thank you. It's more curiosity. I don't know if anybody on P&Z has come up with that before.
Excuse me for interrupting, but the reason that the addresses were on Charles Street is Charles Street was a paper road that extended from where its terminus right now all the way north. And over time, parts of the road were not accreted. They were abandoned to the east and abandoned to the west. But the street addresses remain the same. But that Charles Street should have extended all the way to the edge of where number 34 is, but it never was constructed to the end.
So the house that is being torn down was in the middle lot, and that was the Charles Street address.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. And so there is the way the house is entered, or the units, is on the side, but the doorway, the way it looks to me in the design, is facing toward Osborne, right? But you would come from if you didn't pull into the garage and come into the house through the garage, which I'm not sure you can based on this sketch. Oh yeah, I guess you can. But so
you have garage entry, and there's a walkway connection to a side door as well from the driveway.
Okay. And do you happen to know what type of ownership this is? Are these rentals, or are they condominiums? Are they going to be owned as a PUD? Or
that hasn't been decided as yet.
Okay. And Brian or Steve, is there any restriction or direction on the way that ownership should be labeled?
No, for zoning, we can't really tell the property owner how the ownership's going to work. So we can't say no, they can't be rentals. We can't say they have to be owner occupied. That's kind of out of our jurisdiction.
Okay, fine. And then just one last question, sort of to do with the design of the interior. On the second floor, there's an office. It has a closet, and the hall bath has the 2 sinks. Why aren't you just calling these 3 bedrooms? Was there some reason?
Lou DeMacy, project architect. So the office is called an office because it's not large enough to be considered a bedroom. And nowadays, a lot of people like home offices. So we decided to, have a closet in there just in case they wanted to put a bed, but I can't really call it a bedroom. The other, that's for 32. Now, 30 has 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Okay. I guess I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, the problem was the 32, we had to shrink the house from left to right, so it was only 32 foot wide, and the other ones were a little bit wider, so I was able to get a 3rd bedroom on the other design.
Did you consider making these 1 floor at, horizontal as opposed to vertical?
I do, but the problem is the noise. People always complain about noise on top of each other, so it's better to be side by side for that reason.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Galen?
Yeah, I had exactly the same question Tammy had with the addresses. For several years, my house was out of order. I was 224 with 2 18 in front on one side and 220 on the other. So there was total confusion with deliveries. FedEx truck caused an accident trying to back up to get to the property it was supposed to be getting to. I would very much encourage you to have the addresses changed to Osborne and have them make sense with the order of the properties. You know, I share Tammy's concern about fire trucks being on Charles Street side and not realizing that they have to come in on Osborne.
We will work with DPW to see if that can be achieved.
Yeah, they're usually pretty cooperative for this kind of thing.
It may have to be a number with an A, B, or C, but we'll work with DPW to come up with something that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are there other questions for the applicant? All right, Attorney Suchi, do you have anything else for your presentation this evening?
I don't have anything further. You've had a relatively long night so far. Just to let you know, though, if we are successful with ZBA tomorrow night, you will likely see another application for just number 34. So hopefully you'll remember us. But thank you for your time tonight. We look forward to your action this evening if you so desire to take it. Thank you.
Thank you. So first I'll ask for action on 30 Charles Street. Is there a motion for that application? Galen, was that a motion to approve? Okay, Tammy, that was the second?
Yes.
Wonderful. Brian, do you mind bringing up that? Or was this Amelia? So
yeah, that's mine. That's mine.
Okay.
I should have done ours as 32 first and then 30 to keep it.
Brian, why don't we simply include in the approval the requirement for them to speak with the fire department or DPW regarding a change in number?
Address.
Number and address, yes.
Yep.
Well, who knows what the number is on Osborne, but yeah.
I think I know the answer to this, but Galen and Tammy, are you okay with that modification?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't see it fly by.
Oh,
sorry.
Number 7. It's what you were asking for before.
Yes, it's fine. Thank you.
Great. Any other discussion or modifications to this resolution? All right. Brian, do you mind calling the roll?
Certainly. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Langalis?
Yes.
Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Ms. Lankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hubers?
Yes.
Ms. Tabashnik?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
I think that's unanimous.
Wonderful. We'll move to, or I'll call for an action for the next item, which is 32 Charles Street. Is there a motion for that application?
I'll make the motion with the same change that we made on the other one.
Thank you, Lou. And Galen has seconded. All right. Brian, do you mind bringing up? Thank you.
No problem.
I guess next one down, technically.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Yep. Any comments or modifications to this draft resolution? All right, Brian, do you mind calling the roll again?
Sure. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Schulman?
Yes.
Ms. Langalis?
Yes, but I just also like to add that I would encourage the applicant to make these condominium for sale properties as opposed to rentals, because the city of Norwalk has not had much new housing stock in this type of development in many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowena?
Yes.
Ms. Lankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hubers?
Yes.
Ms. Tabashnik?
Yes.
And Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
Also unanimous.
Wonderful. Thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and have a nice rest of the month of March. Hopefully we'll all get some nice weather. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is under discussion. It is the State of Connecticut House Bill number 8002 from the November special session. Steve or Brian, are you leading this discussion?
Yeah, and I don't. We can pull the document up on the screen if you want to, or we can just kind of have a more general discussion. I don't know which way you'd like to proceed.
Brian, do you mind sharing it out and just scrolling through in case there's something in particular that catches someone's eye as Steve's talking through it?
Sure. In the House bill, if you had a chance to peek through it, we did send out the links. It's pretty substantial, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's not necessarily under the jurisdiction of the commission. But what we tried to do is kind of pull out what is going to affect the city basically through the Planning and Zoning Commission. That being said, there are items in there that A, you don't need to do anything about. B, there are some you have to take action on at some point, and there's further guidance pending from OPM or other state agencies. There's items that you can potentially take action on if you feel appropriate, with a couple of incentive programs in there for one for infrastructure and one for some housing equivalency points. And then there's, I think, the one where we don't have to decide anything tonight because there's other agencies of the city that need to provide input as well. But there's the big one is the change to the parking, and that is effective really July 1 of 2026. So we have basically 4 months to do something about it. I'll go through that one in a little more detail, and we can definitely jump back around to whatever you'd like to talk about. But what the state did was they said you can no longer require parking for the residential developments, which was a little bit of a curveball, as a lot of you may remember. We exempted parking in the CD4 zone during the zoning rewrite, and ultimately, at the urging of Mayor Rilling, asked us to reconsider that, at which time the commission put the parking requirement back in with some potential special permit outs in different areas of the CD4 zone, and also the potential to do fee in lieu of parking if someone so chose to do so. This bill, though, outright eliminates the ability to require the parking, except that they give you the ability to enact 2 areas that can be contiguous, each area no larger than 4% of the land area of the city. When we look at this bill, Brian and I, the first thing is like, what's magical about 8%? It's kind of just an odd number. I'm not sure where that came from. So, I think what the city needs to decide is, first, I'm assuming that they're going to, the city will want to require parking in some areas. It's really deciding what areas are the areas that need to be looked at. The one area that I feel very strongly should be included, no matter what areas are ultimately included, is the CD3 zone. And the reason being for that is I think that the type of density that's allowed there, if parking is not required there, and given the locations of where those properties are around the hospital, in and around South Norwalk, in other areas, I think the potential to overwhelm those neighborhoods with cars is a real concern. And and we can talk about other areas that you guys, I know maybe you haven't had a chance to really think about it on that scale yet, but this is kind of to plant the seed of what we need to do. And again, this has got to be done by July 1st. So, the trickier part for us is not knowing exactly what happens. So in my mind, we would enact an amendment to the zoning regulations saying we're going to enact these two areas that are exempt from this requirement for parking, adopt that. We have to send that up to the state of Connecticut for review. The Office of Policy and Management has 90 days in which to kind of opine on it and then refer it over to another state board who ultimately, I guess, would say yay or nay. So the first question I would have is, okay, so if we enact it and then the state ultimately says, we don't think your methodology or the areas you chose are appropriate, they would remand that back to us. Then what happens if we had applications that were submitted in the interim that would kind of lead to a little bit of a yo-yo effect on approved, not approved, no parking, parking. So it's a little bit ambiguous. Brian and I have started to reach out to folks up at OPM to see if they've gotten any additional guidance, or we might send them some ideas of what we were thinking about and see if they think that would be in line with how they envision this program moving forward. So again, I think the next steps are for us as a board to kind of think about these areas that we would like to consider in the parking areas. Brian and I have some strong thoughts on that. And then also that, like I said, it's got to be done in conjunction with other city departments like TMP and obviously the mayor's office as well. So I'll leave it there and, feel free to fire away with any questions.
Are there any questions for Steve?
I know that's a lot. I apologize.
Well, Steve, I think it's helpful. Like you mentioned the hospital area. So once we get a little bit closer to making these decisions, if you and the staff can point out the areas where you think it will be problematic, that would be very helpful to me. Anyway,
yeah, so maybe at your next agenda, assuming it's not super heavy, we can basically pull the zoning map up and just walk through it area by area. And then some of the thinking for some of the areas came out of when you guys updated the zoning regulations and we looked at potentially going from single family to two family or two family to multi, just looking at those different streets and kind of getting a sense of what exists today. And a lot of those streets, especially in the CD3 zone and in the CD2 zone, some of those are tighter in nature in terms of the width of the street, and also already had a lot of on-street parking already. So it's like our concern would be, all right, are these going to just get overwhelmed? I know the city's also looking at the residential parking permit program, which I think would work in tandem with this and could provide some relief. But I think in some of those areas, outright not having parking would be really problematic.
Steve, this reminds me of the application we had on a street in the parking lot in the hospital area where they took half of their parking lot and put another building in because they didn't need to have that parking anymore. And I remember driving down the street to look at that building, and there wasn't one parking space on the street that wasn't taken already. And I read these things that come out of Hartford, and I'm thinking to myself, God, where do these people live that are voting for this? But that's just me. I don't understand it, how we're going to have an area. I can't even think of an area in the city where you could say you don't need to have any parking. But I'll be
one thing to
interested
think
to
about,
see.
yeah, and one thing to think about is like, so the single family zones that we're, Amelia and Brian and I have been working on just some of the calculations. That's over 60% of the city's land area is the single family zone. So, I mean, I think it's highly unlikely that somebody's going to build a house in a single family zone without having some sort of parking. Like whether even if it's just the driveway, they'll have something. So I don't think you could single out, bad choice of words. I don't think you could separate out the single family zones because I don't think you'd ever get to any kind of logical consensus on what to do with those. So we haven't even considered that as part of the equation because we're thinking that's going to take care of itself. In my mind, the CD2 and CD3 zones are in my opinion, only the two most vulnerable zones.
When we adopt or need to make changes to our regulations to identify these zones? At the same time, do we need to make modifications to our parking standards in the regulations to reflect the new law?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's the other piece of it is that, and honestly, I think our standard is actually better than what they proposed, just based on real life and what we've witnessed. Is they and they're not the fault what they propose, just because that's consistent with what a lot of communities do. It's they'd say, all right, you have a studio or one bedroom unit, so you get one parking space. Anything with a 2 or a 3, you get 2 spaces. So that's an amendment we have to make to the regulations as well, and modify our existing fee in lieu of parking can only be applied to developments of 16 or more units. And one important thing that I forgot to mention is the no parking requirement only applies to developments of 16 units or less. So if you have like a 20 unit, 30 unit building, those do have to provide parking, or they have to come in with what they like a parking management plan, and then we have to review that, and that could, probably on bigger developments, if something's out of whack, we'll bring in a third party peer review to kind of say, no, this is not going to make sense. And I think what we've done in the past and what we can do again is do parking occupancy counts at developments that are already existing, so we get a sense of, all right, we know that Spinnaker's building on Monroe Street's got 100 units and 100 spaces. We've checked it at 10 different time intervals, and it's 95% occupied. So we know, okay, they're pretty tight on parking, or maybe it's 80% occupied. So there might be residual spaces, and the ratio we had before is a good number. So we can do some of those kind of metrics to kind of balance out what's being proposed versus what we're seeing on the ground.
Also, Steve, we have to, I think, look at it in context of transportation. It's the state going to expand public transportation if they expect us to not have parking, and we can't really make that decision without some information.
Yeah, and I think that played into some of our thinking on at least our initial thoughts on where this should be, just because some of the other areas are already more likely to be serviced by bus or near a train station. So I think that's a factor to consider before any final decision is made.
And we have to do that before July.
Yeah, so ideally, in my mind, we would have something in effect at the beginning of June. Then we would send all our materials up to the state to say, here we go, and then see what they say. And then it's a kind of just waiting game and seeing what's going to happen.
Do you know if any municipalities have, acted very quickly and submitted already that we can look to as a reference?
I have not heard. I can double check. I have not heard anybody doing that.
Okay.
I helped WestCog out with consultant interviews because they're trying to get consultants on board, because some of the other municipalities, because some of the other changes that went into effect, also we're already complying with some of the other new laws that came into effect by just the nature of what our zoning is laid out already. But other communities are not, so they have to scramble to catch up on some of the other things. So they were trying to get consultants on board, and I know the ones that I talked to have not gone anywhere. But I can do some poking around to see if anybody's submitted anything.
Okay, thank you.
Curious if our state legislators have talked to you about this.
No.
Thank you.
Other questions on parking, I guess, before Steve moves on to anything else on this memo, Steve?
Yeah, and like most of the things on the other memo, there's some, which is kind of, the housing growth plan is probably the most convoluted section of the bill, and it's, thank goodness the COGS had did like kind of their analysis of it, because it was much easier to work through that document than go back to the housing bill just to kind of fact check everything that was in there. That one, I think we just have to wait and see and get some guidance. I don't like the way they put it together. Personally, I just find it confusing. That's the sentiment I'm getting from the broader planning community as well. There's a lot of frustration with what was put together. But again, that one is, we're 2 years out before there's start of any action, at least a year and a half out from probably any action on our part. And then I think there's a safe route to go going through Westcog, but I don't know if it will ultimately be the best route for us. So I think we just have to kind of wait and see on that. And if any questions you guys have from anything else, I know it was a long memo with a lot of stuff to digest. So if you have questions or if you think of stuff afterwards, you can always email me and we can, go through it again, and happy to put it back on the next agenda, go back through it, but definitely we'll do so with the parking so we can have a more in-depth conversation about that.
Thank you.
Having attempted to read sections of the bill, your memo was far more readable. So thank you.
Yeah,
I agree, Harvey.
That bill it's something, to say the least.
Steve, would you like to jump to ADUs?
Sure. And Brian, unfortunately I can't read all the text, so I'm trying to remember the other changes that we talked about for the ADUs, because we broke out the ADUs. If you remember, we had proposed a bunch of different amendments to the zoning regulations. Those I think are on I don't know if they're on your first March meeting or your second March meeting. Well, there's a public hearing on those. There were some changes to the ADU laws that we've been kicking around for a while. But this concept really is dealing with pre-approved plans, and the idea being if, we know what size is allowed for the ADU. The regulations are, they may change, but they're at the moment, we know how tall it can be. We know how big it can be. And this is really talking about detached ADUs. I should be clear about that. We know how tall it can be, how big it can be, how far it has to be away from the property lines. So this is the idea of saying, all right, we can have these pre-approved plans. So this is something that meets all the dimensional requirements that the city has put together for an ADU. And I think what I like, kind of a little fun twist on doing this, I was like, well, why don't we do something where we let the design community, because there's a lot of creative folks out there, whether they're designers or architects, let them come up with designs, floor plans, elevations, and a little rendering of what they propose, and let them submit that, and then we can kind of collate that on the staff end, put it out into a poll, and let the public vote on this. And I think we're doing that for two reasons. Well, actually three main reasons. One is if we get the plans pre-approved, it is less costly to build the ADU because they're not having to duplicate new plans for each development. It'll be like they'll it's almost like you can do this now. Like I remember when we were buying garage doors, there was like, you went to the garage door website and they had 50 different garage doors and each one had a name, and you picked it and it, matched up the size, and they installed it on your garage. Kind of similar to that, they would, have a name for that particular building that would be up on the website, and that's pre-approved. So the architect's not recreating that different plans for each house, each property. So that's a cost savings for the prospective owner and developer of that. The second thing is it creates awareness about what we're going to do with ADUs. I think we would establish like a more robust ADU page/website that kind of helps provide more guidance and kind of indicates what you have to do to get approval for an ADU, the benefits of the ADU, and so forth, and then would have all those plans in one location. It also does promote kind of awareness for the neighbors too. So if I think hopefully would be less of a surprise if one of these gets built in somebody's backyard, that like, hey, what's my neighbor doing over there? And they're like, oh, I think that's one of those ADUs that the city was talking about a while ago. So I think there's a bunch of different benefits to it. I think that if you're moving in the direction, which is the state's kind of pushing you to do anyway, is not put a lot of hurdles in front of the development of ADUs. I think this helps streamline the process, lowers the cost. I think it increases awareness and takes a little bit of workload off of everybody's plate that say, all right, we understand that these 30 ADUs are ones that we've selected for pre-approval because they kind of meet what we think is appropriate and what we'd like to see in the city going forward. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you. I'm very much so looking forward to this. I don't know if others have comments or questions on this.
I think the more we can do to give, people that come before us like certainty and just kind of get to the decisions we would reach anyway quicker, like I think that's doing everyone a service, and I think that's going to move this goal forward. So I appreciate the work here.
Yeah, I do too. I like the idea that at least planning and zoning could have some ideas of what they look like, but I wouldn't want them all to look the same and then they would look all the same, and that wouldn't be good. Like they should kind of complement the house of the property that they're on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and before any of this goes out, we'll work with you guys on developing kind of the criteria and what the messaging looks like, as well as working through the mayor's office. And if that contest turns into a colossal flop, then we'll have to come up with a plan B on how to get this done.
And your ideas are just suggestions. They're not, you have to build your ADU to look like this.
Right, yeah.
You don't want stock ADUs in every yard that look exactly like every ranch in the city or every, ranch in the city.
Yeah, I think if we got enough, I would think if you had 80 submittals, that would be awesome. And then you picked like 30 of them, or 30 or 40, you guys like, these are really nice. And then people can pick from that, but it doesn't stop them from designing their own ADU and just submitting it. But that's going to have to go through a little closer look just because we haven't pre-approved those.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Yep.
So, Steve, when you say that the neighbor who sees this ADU going up says, oh yeah, that's one of the pre-approved ones from the city, that's the only notice they get?
As of now, yeah. So, I think that's one of the amendments under consideration is removing the site plan approval process for the ADUs. Brian, am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think so. How we currently worded it, and you guys will have your hearing, I think, at your April 8th meeting, is for under certain circumstances, a site plan application might still be required if they're using more lenient setbacks. But we included the requirement that even if it's just an over-the-counter zoning permit, that they would notify the neighbors that they've applied for that zoning permit. So at least they're getting notice that a zoning permit for a detached ADU has been applied for.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question? If I want to put a tennis court, I don't have a big enough yard, but let's say I want to put a tennis court in my yard. Do I have to notify the neighbors?
No. This would be one of the few things you have to notify the neighbors for that's outside of going to the commission.
But you could make the argument that a tennis court is way more disruptive than an ADU. If people want to go out and play tennis at 6 a.m, that's, that's very disruptive. Or a swimming pool. Our neighbors have a swimming pool, and every Saturday their grandchildren come over, and kids have to scream in a swimming pool. But, that's fine. But nobody asked the neighbors if they could put in the swimming pool. There are all kinds of things you do on your property that may or may not be things the neighbors are happy with. But if they're within setbacks and they're legal, it's your right to do it. I can't. And we've all had crazy neighbors who get notified of something and then get up and there's a, in other words, I don't think notifying the neighbors is necessarily something we need to ensure happens before an ADU goes.
Let's pick up this conversation when we're talking about the regulation change. Just that way we have it in line with when we're going to make that decision. But fair point, Galen. Yeah, but I think we should come back to that at our next meeting. From the sounds of it, we'll dive into notification and site plan changes for ADUs.
Okay, great.
Anything else on the pre-approved plans design competition? Cool. I'm looking forward to this. Acceptance of minutes. Is there a motion for the minutes? Thank you, Tammy. It's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Great. All those in favor, we can just do this with a show of hands. 2, 3. Anna, yep, that's an approval. Thank you. And all abstentions. And John, you're welcome to abstain from this, as will I, as I was not at the last meeting. And so that is everyone. So it carries with 2 abstentions. Comments of the director.
There was 2 things and I've forgotten one, so hopefully I come back to it. This first item was just a reminder that we're going to have that joint meeting in April with the Economic Development to get a preview of the Strategic Harbor Plan. I will get out the link to that. I'll try to get that out tomorrow morning for you guys, so you have a chance to kind of preview the plan. Harbor Management is getting the same presentation you're getting at their March meeting. So if you're unable to do the joint meeting with Economic Development, you'll have 1 or 2 opportunities to go back and at least watch the presentation and get a feel for the plan. Ultimately, there'll be a public hearing on amending the POCD, but I think that's not going to happen until the beginning of June based on notice requirements that we have to do with the state. So that's just kind of a heads up on that one.
Was your second item about in-person meeting?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we do have, the mayor has asked that we, come back to have some in-person meetings. So we're going to do that once a month. I think what we were considering doing is we'll have to do it. All the meetings are noticed that way now anyway. So I think what we were talking about was, all right, if we have a lot of items that are kind of administrative items, kind of like, I'd say your agenda tonight was a lot of administrative type projects, except for maybe the Charles Street ones, were a lot of, 824s, special appropriations and those things. I don't necessarily think that's the other items may be better if you're doing like a larger application where there's more public interest. Those might be the ones to have the public meetings at. So I think, Brian, did we decide on the 8th or the 22nd?
I think we're shooting for the 8th. I think you have a couple public hearings that night, so be good for us to be in person. And then in person means hybrid. So in case you cannot make the meeting in person, you're welcome to attend via Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. I should have led with that.
I just
And stop
noted on
texting everybody and their mother.
Just give us a reminder that day or the night before which one it is.
Yeah, and then just for you don't have your next meeting usually would have been April 1st. It's a week later. I think there's I think it's Passover starts that week, so it's not an April Fool's joke. It's your meeting is the 8th and not the 1st.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably do, I think the easiest thing for everybody will be, and we don't have to set it right now, will be to pick whether it's the first meeting of the month or the third meeting of the month, and always have it the hybrid meeting be one of those 2. Because otherwise, I think if we tried to move it month to month, that would get confusing for everybody.
I agree. Great.
Summer and winter, like I'm happy to go to an in-person meeting in the from now until through November, but December, January, and February, I suppose I have the option of just doing it on Zoom. But,
yep.
So it will be every month is my question, or just?
I think that's the plan, and we will make sure to arrange a snowstorm for all those winter ones. That way it'll be everybody will be remote.
Right.
Excellent.
What would happen if we were all remote?
It would be
In-person meeting.
it would be tonight.
Steve would be very, very lonely.
I was going to say either.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
would be alone in the.
Right. Because I believe we could really only host it in chambers, effectively at least. So, yeah, I guess someone from staff would have to be there to facilitate any public comments. I'd come and join you. I'll walk down the street. I mean, who knows? We'll see how much snow. Steve, did you have anything else that you wanted to?
Not that I can think of. No, thank you.
Are there any comments of commissioners?
Yes, Chapin, if I can. There is a raised bill. It's number 363 in the General Assembly. It's the Planning and Development Committee. This deals with an issue that we have in Norwalk, and what I hope is that we can get the commission on board to take a position on it. I've spoken to the mayor about this. I've spoken with Bob Duff, and I've spoken with Josh Goldstein, and they're all in favor of basically what this plan is trying to do. Right now, I think we've all seen at places like Waypoint and many of the other large housing developments that have been built that have built-in retail space, that space is vacant. And by and large, that's a decision made by the developers. For tax reasons, it's to their advantage to keep those spaces vacant. We as a city by ourselves can't really do anything about that. This bill 363 would enable cities within certain areas to establish a tax on retail space that is left vacant. From my point of view, that's a way of encouraging those spaces to be rented as retail, not necessarily to punish developers, but in the event that developers refuse to take action, it would punish them. So I had asked Steve to make copies of what exists in the way of this legislation. It's only 3 pages, and I'm sure he can send it out to everyone. But I'd like us to have a conversation about it, get behind it, support it, let our legislators know that we support it, and perhaps speak with. This is mainly a problem, I believe, in cities, and perhaps get other cities in the state behind this legislation so that we can fill some of that vacant retail space we've got in town. I'm happy to the extent that I can to answer questions.
I look forward to reading it. Certainly would like a copy. What was the number of that bill again?
It's 363.
House bill, HB?
It's a raised bill.
Okay.
And it's called an act allowing municipalities to impose commercial vacancy assessments in certain districts.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to read it too. Thank you for bringing that up, Lou.
Sure.
I find it really frustrating that we have a lot of vacant storefront and, the activate the street, it's not activated at all. We should go talk to Genovese over in Darien because he really hand picking his tenants, and maybe he just has the magic touch or something in that development, but they're all filling up, and I wish Norwalk could achieve the same.
Do you know of any other cities where this has been implemented and met its goals in terms of increase or decreasing vacant retail spaces? That's
Well, certainly not in Connecticut, but it has been implemented in other cities. Someone else who's really knowledgeable about this is Nick, and I hope Nick might be at tonight's meeting. But Nick, and I believe his office is also getting behind this. But I think the staff can do just a little bit of research and get an answer to that question for
Yeah,
you.
as far as I know, in Connecticut, we don't have the ability to do a vacancy tax, which is the purpose of the bill. It would enable cities to implement their own vacancy taxes.
Yeah, I meant other cities and other states.
I got it. Okay, gotcha,
Right.
gotcha.
Like, obviously, we can't do it. And then, along with that, any research on the level of vacancy tax? Like, when does it become successful at encouraging retail, and when is it just this is the amount of money you pay to keep your tax benefit?
I mean,
right?
That's a great question, because I've raised that myself. This particular bill, I think, taxes it something like $5 a square foot. I don't know if that's the right number. I suspect it isn't. I mean, in order for it to work, it's got to hurt.
Well, then what
Yeah,
happens?
so they're looking to set us a rate or a cap across the board. We wouldn't get to.
Exactly.
Right.
And again, that's another reason for us to be involved, so that on these questions, we can have input.
It would be very helpful to know too why developers leave them vacant and why it's to their benefit to leave them vacant. So we need to understand the root of the problem.
As you know, is a realtor. When I was speaking to him about this at the Mayor's Ball, he indicated that there are tax advantages for the developers. It's money in their pocket.
Yeah, we've seen that. And I think an article was shared a couple of years ago with this commission about that explained it really well. But I think the follow-on question is really what Tammy was pointing out, that there are some mixed-use places that don't leave their spaces vacant. And, what's the difference there, right? Like, that's I think, the key question as well.
We need to understand commercial real estate, and Bob certainly has a lot of experience at the state, but I believe his license is more residential and not commercial. But if we're going to make an opinion or really learn something about this, I think we have to start with where does the problem start, not just what's the solution to put a tax on it. And I would welcome any information that staff could provide. Certainly I can do my own research as well.
I think it causes issues with the loan too, because if the folks bought the building under a certain value of that commercial space, if you start to lower the rent, then
Right.
you lower the value, and then you
Yep.
cause issues with your loan.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of a converse or perverse situation, especially in commercial buildings.
Brian, is there an easy way for us to know like what the extent of this vacancy is? I have to admit that driving down West Avenue and East Avenue, or not East Avenue, West Avenue and Wall Street, I haven't looked out my window to see.
Yeah, I think Steve and we'll chat with Jay in the ECD office and see if they have a good idea.
Yeah. And even the mall, like the ground floor places, a couple of the restaurants that were there, they're gone now.
Tell you that I live in Sono Central, and all the retail spaces are empty.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that?
Sono Central.
Monroe Street.
Monroe Street.
Yeah, I know that one in particular. I know they're trying to fill. So I know. I mean, from conversations I've had, we can do some digging, and I know Sabrina and Jay have data on that, and I'll bring that up, and I'll talk. Brian and I are meeting with Jay this week, so we'll have that conversation too.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to Tammy's request earlier to take the research you guys find and maybe put a memo together on what you've identified, and maybe we have that on our next meeting's agenda if that's doable. Otherwise, maybe the following. I just recognize this session is active, so I don't know their timeline. Go ahead.
I would like to be involved. I'm going to be out of the country for our next meeting.
Okay.
I believe it's the second meeting I will be missing in about 10 years.
I was worried tonight might be one of those, but then you joined us a little bit late.
It was close.
It was close.
You're getting ready to go out of the country, Lou. You're practicing. You almost missed it.
Wonderful. I'm happy if everybody else is to have this on the agenda then at our April 22nd meeting for us to discuss. Would be give staff more time for the research as well, and maybe as a result of that we put together language towards a letter or something we'd want to submit to our legislatures for how we feel about this potential legislation. Thank you for raising this, Lou.
Sure.
Is there other discussion or comments of commissioners? Go ahead, Tammy.
Yes, please. Sorry, always. I, for some reason, have been driving by Costco a lot lately. And you know how we approved their driveway, they're doing the big tire center and all of that. And there's a secondary driveway closer to the off-ramp of I-95 as it comes around. And in my observation, which is limited, but I'm looking at it, no cars are using that new other entrance to the lower level parking. Everybody is pulling up to the main previously existing entrance. And I think the reason we wanted them to have that was to get the traffic off the road, because there's no extra lane for the cars that want to go into Costco. My suggestion would be, or request if we can, is to go back to them before they get their permit and make sure there's a sign there that says something to the effect of, Costco lower level parking or something, so that people know it's there, because it's actually kind of difficult to see from the street. And I know it's there because we sat through, a lot of meetings with them. So
I know for a period of time that driveway was closed, they were doing construction. I hope it's open.
yeah,
right
it's
now,
not, I don't think it's closed, Chapin.
Okay, okay.
And the tire center is very close to being done. They're still working on the store, but the parking lot and all the solar panels and all of that stuff is all open.
Great.
So Steve, do we have the ability to go back to them and ask them to do something if it wasn't on their application?
I don't think you could require them to do something. I think you could ask them to consider some additional signage. I don't remember if there was directional or wayfinding signage related to that. I remember we were talking about that being like a no left turn, and that was like, couldn't access it only from certain directions. I don't remember anything about signage though. I'd have to go back.
They don't have an open permit that we, that you guys close out.
I don't know if what the status is of the permits, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, maybe if you could just, in your spare time, just check it out and drive by someday, just drive by and see, come, go in either direction really on the Post Road or Connecticut Avenue, and just see what you think.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Any other comments of commissioners? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks, Richard. All those in favor? Have a great night, everyone. We will see you on April 8th.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Night.